everyone in your Bible chat. This is day 137 in a row. Today is, what is today's date? The 14th. Today is the 14th. So, welcome to another daily stream. Today we're going to be reading from May the 16th. We started 2 days early. And let's get into today's word. May the 16th is the day's read. 16th. Boom, boom. There we go. Tonight, chat, we're going to be... What's up, basketball? How you doing, bro? Today we're going to be reading from 1 Samuel 18:5 through 19, going through verse 24. We're going to follow up Samuel with John 8:31 through 59. We'll follow up John with Psalms 112, 1 through 10, and then wrapping up tonight's read with Proverbs 15:12 through 14. Thank you for the like. And without further ado, let's get into 1 Samuel 18:5 through 19. Whatever Saul asked David to do, David did this successfully. So Saul made him a commander over the men of war, an appointment that was welcomed by the people and Saul's officers alike. When the victorious Israelite army was returning home after David had killed the Philistine, women from all the towns of Israel came out to meet King Saul. They sang and danced for joy with tambourines and cymbals. This was their song. Saul has killed his thousands, and David his 10,000s. This made Saul very angry. What's this, he said. They credit David with 10,000s and me with only thousands. Next to be making him their king. So from that time on, Saul kept a jealous eye on David. The very next day, a tormenting spirit from God overwhelmed Saul, and he began to rave in his house like a madman. David was playing the harp, and as he did each day. But Saul had a spear in his hand, and he suddenly hurled it at David, intending to pin him to the wall. But David escaped him twice. Saul was then afraid of David, for the Lord was with David and had turned away from Saul. Finally, Saul sent him away and appointed him commander over 1,000 men, and David faithfully led his troops into battle. David continued to succeed in everything he did, for the Lord was with him. When Saul recognized this, he became even more afraid of him. But all Israel and Judah loved David because he was so successful at leading his troops into battle. One day Saul said to David, I am ready to give you my older daughter, Merab, as your wife. But first you must prove yourself to be a real warrior by fighting the Lord's battles. For Saul thought, I'll send him out against the Philistines and let them kill him, rather than doing it myself. Who am I, and what is my family in Israel, that I should be the king's son-in-law? David exclaimed. My father's family is nothing. So, when the time came for Saul to give his daughter Merab in marriage to David, he gave her instead to Adriel, a man from Maholah. In the meantime, Saul's daughter Michal had fallen in love with David, and Saul was delighted when he heard about it. Here's another chance to see him killed by the Philistines, Saul said to himself. But to David, he said, today you have a second chance to become my son-in-law. Then Saul told his men to say to David, the king really likes you, and so do we. Why don't you accept the king's offer and become his son-in-law? When Saul's men said these things to David, he replied, how can a poor man from a humble family afford the bride price for the daughter of a king? When Saul's men reported this back to the king, he told them, tell David that all I want for the bride price is 100 Philistine foreskins. Vengeance on my enemies is all I really want. But what Saul had in mind was that David would be killed in the fight. David was delighted to accept the offer before the time limit expired. He and his men went out and killed 200 Philistines. Then David fulfilled the king's requirement by presenting all their foreskins to him. So Saul gave his daughter Michal to David to be his wife. When Saul realized that the Lord was with David and how much his daughter Michal loved him, Saul became even more afraid of him, and he remained David's enemy for the rest of his life. Every time the commanders of the Philistines attacked, David was more successful against them than all the rest of Saul's officers. So David's name became very famous. Saul now urged his servants and his son Jonathan to assassinate David. But Jonathan, because of his strong affection for David, told him what his father was planning. Tomorrow morning, he warned him, you must find a hiding place out in the fields. I'll ask my father to go out there with me, and I'll talk to him about you. Then I'll tell you everything I can find out. The next morning, Jonathan spoke with his father about David, saying many good things about him. The king must not sin against his servant David, Jonathan said. He's never done anything to harm you. He has always helped you in any way he could. Have you forgotten about the time he risked his life to kill the Philistine giant and how the Lord brought a great victory to all Israel as a result? You were certainly happy about it then. Why should you murder an innocent man like David? There was no reason for it at all. So Saul listened to Jonathan and vowed, as surely as the Lord lives, David would not be killed. Afterward, Jonathan called David and told him what had happened. Then he brought David to Saul, and David served in the court as before. War broke out again after that, and David led his troops against the Philistines. He attacked them with such fury that they all ran away. But one day when Saul was sitting at home with spear in hand, the tormenting spirit from the Lord suddenly came upon him again. As David played his harp, Saul hurled his spear at David, but David dodged out of the way, and leaving the spear stuck in the wall, he fled and escaped into the night. Then Saul sent troops to watch David's. How you doing, Garza? How you doing, Doris? It's all good. House. They were told to kill David when he came out the next morning, but Michal, David's wife, warned him, if you don't escape tonight, you'll be dead by morning. So she helped him climb out through a window, and he fled and escaped. Then she took an idol and put it into his bed, covered it with blankets, and put a cushion of goat's hair at his head. When the troops came to arrest David, she told them he was sick and couldn't get out of bed. But Saul sent the troops back to get David. He ordered, bring him to me in his bed so I can kill him. But when they came to carry David out, they discovered that it was only an idol in the bed with a cushion of goat's hair at his head. Why have you betrayed me like this and let my enemy escape? Saul demanded of Michal. I had to, Michal replied. He threatened to kill me if I didn't help him. So David escaped and went to Ramah to see Samuel, and he told him all that Saul had done to him. Then Samuel took David with him to live at Noath. When the report reached Saul that David was at Noath and Ramah, he sent troops to capture him. But when they arrived and saw Samuel leading a group of prophets who were prophesying, the Spirit of God came upon Saul's men, and they all began to prophesy. When Saul heard what had happened, he sent other troops, but they too prophesied. The same thing happened a third time. Finally, Saul himself went to Ramah and arrived at the great well at Seku. Where are Samuel and David? Where are Samuel and David? He demanded. They are at Noath and Ramah, someone told him. But on the way to Noath and Ramah, the Spirit of God came upon Saul, and he, too, began to prophesy all the way to Noath. He tore off his clothes and lay naked on the ground all day and all night, prophesying in the presence of Samuel. The people who were watching exclaimed, "What? Is even Saul a prophet?" And that was the end of today's read from 1 Samuel 18:5 through 19. And now let's get into John 8:31 through 59. Jesus said to his people who believed in him, "You are truly my disciples if you remain faithful to my teachings, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." "But we are descendants of Abraham," they said. "We have never been slaves to anyone. What do you mean you will be set free?" Jesus replied, "I tell you the truth. Every one of you who sins is a slave to sin. A slave is not a permanent member of the family, but a son is a part of the family forever. So the son sets you free. You are truly free. Yes, I realize that you are descendants of Abraham, and yet some of you are trying to kill me because there's no room in your hearts for a message. I am telling you what I saw and when I was with my father, but you're following the advice of your father." "Our father is Abraham," they declared. "No," Jesus replied, "for if you're really the children of Abraham, you would have followed his example. Instead, you are trying to kill me because I told you the truth, which I heard from God. Abraham never did such a thing. No, you are imitating your real father." They replied, "We aren't illegitimate children. God himself is our true father." Jesus told them, "If God were your father, you would love me because I have come to you from God. I am not here on my own, but he sent me. So why can't you understand what I am saying? It's because you can't even hear me. For you are children of your father, the devil, and you love to do evil things he does. He was a murderer from the beginning. He has always hated the truth because there's no truth in him. Where he lies, it is consistent with his character, for he is a liar and the father of lies. So when I tell the truth, you just naturally don't believe me. Which of you can truthfully accuse me of sin? And since I'm telling you the truth, Why don't you believe me? Anyone who belongs to God listens gladly to the words of God. But you don't listen because you don't belong to God. The people retorted, You Samaritan devil, didn't we say all along that you were possessed by a demon? No, Jesus said, I have no demon in me, for I honor my Father, and you dishonor me. And though I have no wish to glorify myself, God is going to glorify me. He is the true judge. I tell you the truth, anyone who obeys my teachings will never die. The people said, Now we know you are possessed by a demon. Even Abraham and the prophets died, but you say, Anyone who obeys my teachings will never die. Are you greater than our father Abraham? He died, and so did the prophets. Who do you think you are? Jesus answered, If I want glory for myself, it doesn't count. But it is my Father who will glorify me. You say he is our God, but you don't even know him. I know him. If I said otherwise, I would be a great as liar as you. But I do know him and obey him. Your father Abraham rejoiced as he looked forward to my coming. He saw it and was glad. The people said, You aren't even 50 years old. How can you say that you have seen Abraham? Jesus answered, I tell you the truth. Before Abraham was even born, I am. At that point, they picked up stones to throw at him. But Jesus was hidden from them and left the temple. Amen. What's up, Randy? How you doing? And that was John 8:31 through 59. Let's get into Psalms 112, 1 through 10. Praise the Lord. How joyful are those who fear the Lord and delight in obeying his commands. Their children will be successful everywhere. An entire generation of godly people will be blessed. They themselves will be wealthy, and their good deeds will last forever. Light shines in the darkness for the godly. They are generous, compassionate, and righteous. Good comes to those who lend money generously and conduct their business fairly. Such people will not be overcome by evil, and those who are righteous will be long remembered. They do not fear bad news. They confidently trust the Lord to care for them. They are confident and fearless, and can face their foes triumphantly. They share freely and give generously to those in need, and their good deeds will be remembered forever. They will have influence and honor, and the wicked will see this and be infuriated. They will grind their teeth in anger, and they will slink away, their hopes thwarted. And now, Proverbs 15:12 through 14. Oh, hey, bro, it's me from earlier when you was hooping, the Chicago guy. I was just trolling. That's what you do. I appreciate it, bro. Thank you for joining back again. Doing good, thanks to be. God, living, learning, and loving. Hey, great. Good to see you again, Randy, for sure. And now, Proverbs 15:12 through 14. Mockers hate to be corrected, so they stay away from the wise. A glad heart makes a happy face. A broken heart crushes the spirit. A wise person is hungry for knowledge, while a fool feeds on trash. And now, does the truth set us free? Does the truth set us free? How many times have we heard someone say the truth will set us free? The Bible does say that, but not quite in the way we often hear it. As we slow down and read what Jesus actually said, the meaning is quite different. If just knowing the truth sets us free, we just need to memorize more scriptures to be free. But it says that those who follow the teachings of Jesus become his disciples, and those who obey and live out the truth will be set free. And chat, that was the end of today's read, day 136 from the One Year Bible. I'm going to turn off this camera really quickly, chat, and ask for clarity, wisdom, and discernment on today's read, and I'll be right back. All right, chat, we're back. All right, let's get back into our word for tonight. May the 16th. Okay. Let's go over this word really quickly. Okay, so we got a good word today, chat. So 1 Samuel 18:5 through 19, going through verse 24. So we have two different messages from this verse tonight, chat. From these verses tonight, right? We got Saul, who displayed envy, jealousy, right? And we have David, who displayed love, care and generosity, right? The faith and belief, right? Now we have the option, right? This shows us that we have the option, right? We have two different examples of two different people, and then what played out for those two different people, right? So we have Saul, right, who um, you had a burp. You had a burp right in their face, huh? Right in their face, huh? Told you he don't respect nobody. But we have Saul, right, chat, who um, he ended up jealous, right? And he let his jealousy control him, right? Um, and he couldn't see past his jealousy, right? He wanted to be the one. He couldn't see past not being the one, right? Um, and he couldn't be happy for somebody else's success, right? So this is a great message here. Can you be happy for somebody else's success, right? Are you happy when somebody else succeeds, right? Can you have love for your neighbor even when they succeed in a situation where you perceive that you should have, right? Do you still have love for your neighbor then, right? So it's a great message from Saul's perspective. Do you still have love for your neighbor even when you perceive that you should have received that thing, right? Because if it was for you, you would have had it, right? Can you live with that? With if it's for me, is if God has something for me, it's meant for me, and you can be appreciative of your neighbor succeeding in life, and you know that you still have a blessing coming to you, right? So that's the story of Saul, right? Um, he couldn't be happy for his neighbor. He couldn't keep having the love for his neighbor when it wasn't all for him anymore, right? When it wasn't all about him anymore, he couldn't have the love for his neighbor, and that's a lesson for all of us to learn, right? When it's not all about us, right? And somebody around us is succeeding, can we still be happy for them, right? Can you still be happy for them? Um, and for David, David listened, right? This the story of David is he listened. He remained humble. He only moved when God spoke to him. Um, and it's a message of God's protection, right? As Saul attempted to play David in every way, David never tried to get revenge on Saul. He never tried to get back at Saul. He kept having love for Saul, even though Saul kept going for him. And so David remained in that way. He remains in God's protection, right? So let's remember to not get angry in these situations and not look for revenge when somebody tries to come for us. Um, and just let God handle it, right? Let God take care of it, right? That's what David. That's what made David, David in this time, right? He let God take care of it, right? Um, so can we be humble in the situation and let God take care of it, right? Um, and that's really the message from David, right? Um, David just listened. David kept the love. David didn't get angry. David didn't look for revenge on Saul, even though Saul tried to take his life several times, right? Um, David let God fight the battles. Can we let God fight the battles even when we want to fight somebody, right? Even when we're upset, right? So that's the message from David's perspective, right? So um, now now my little man is like a little in my way, so it's a little hard to, read this, right? Um, a little hard to get to where I'm trying to be at. Um, and just from John 8:31 to 59. So Jesus in this story tonight, right? He was talking to the people, and they were saying Abraham was their father, right? And Jesus said, Abraham not your father. You see who you listen to. You see what you do in your free time. You know who your father is. You know. But you still have you have the choice though to change. That's the thing that was also mentioned here. When you accept the Son, right? Then you're free, right? Then you're free. Um, when you're ready to obey and live out the real truth, then you will be set free, right? Um, so the people were misguided. They believed they were following Abraham, but they were really following their own desires. Hey, what's up, British? How you doing? They were really following their own desires, right? You see this man, he just won't, just be still for a bit. They were really following their own desires though, right? Um, and not what God had done for them or wanted for them to do. Um, so Jesus let them know that they weren't following Abraham, who they said was their father. They were following they were going towards sin. So who you think your father is if you're led into sin, right? Who you think you're listening to if you're led into sin, right? Um, and that's just an easy way to check your compass, right? If are you being led into sin, then you know who's leading you. Um, are you being led to do something that's generous, loving, shows compassion, and that's really honoring God and loving your neighbor? Then you know who's leading you. It's really easy to see who's leading you, who's directing your path, right? Um, and that's what Jesus made them aware of, and that came from John 8:31 to 59. And now Psalms 112, 1 through 10. As I will always say, Psalms is a great way to learn how to pray, right? And it rhymes, so it's true. It rhymes, so it's true, right? Um, because Psalm shows you to be honest. Psalms shows you honesty. They're being completely openly honest um, in Psalms, right? That's a real prayer. It's honesty, right? Because you can't hide nothing from God anyway, so you might as well be honest. And if you want to learn how to pray, read Psalms. It's wholehearted honesty, no matter what. No matter what mistakes you made, no matter who you believe, no matter what, it's just honesty and then asking for God's help. And that's Psalms, right? So if you want to learn how to play, I recommend you read Psalms, right? And on Proverbs 15, 12 through 14. Mockers hate being corrected, so they stay away from the wise. A glad heart makes a happy face. A broken heart crushes the spirit, and a wise person is hungry for knowledge, while fools feed on trash. What are you feeding on? What are you eating? What do you consume every day? What do you consume every? Are you consuming something to nourish your soul, or are you eating trash like a pig? Are you eating trash like a pig? you know. Um, so check yourself. Today is the day to remind us to check ourselves. Check who is leading our paths. So that's the word today. Check who is leading your path today. Right. That's the message for today. Check who is leading your path. Right. Um, and ain't nothing wrong with doing that. But let's hit this outro chat. This is your first time. Alfie's gonna do it. Alfie's gonna do the chat. Do the outro. We all got that limitless core, baby. Is that right, baby? We all got that limitless core, baby. I appreciate you. I might even love you, but I'm for sure glad you woke up today. Thank you for giving me the most valuable thing you could give me, which is you. Your presence is always appreciated. Thank you, as always. And you have a great, wonderful rest of your night. Say, see you later, baby. See you, everybody. Have a great night. We appreciate you. As love, as always, love you all. Love y'all. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate your presence. And I hope you have a great and wonderful rest of your night. Peace. Oh.